Welcome to the demo for Revenue Lease Amendments and Lease Accounting within Oracle Fusion Cloud Financials. This feature in 23D is for revenue lease amendments, which include changing payment amounts or the term of the contract, adjusting accounted transactions and balances, maintaining an audit of the changes, and processing lease expiration to close out revenue lease contracts that have reached the end of their life. The business needs include amendments and termination that help the user to maintain leases in such a manner that they reflect a true and fair view of the state of affairs. It also helps the user to comply with IFRS 16 and ASC 842 for all modifications and terminations. It also improves control with complete audit history of the lease amendments and access to prior lease versions. So the outcome include amending operating revenue leases, early terminate operating revenue leases, expiring a lease that has reached its end of life, and automating accounting for adjustments to billing and accruals. In this demo, I will show you how to perform revenue lease amendments for operating leases and how it will enhance your business. First, I'll cover amending a lease with no scope change. Here I have lease number Demo 1 that's in active status, which indicates by the status column with the active status. I'll start the amendment for Demo 1 by selecting Amend Lease from the Actions menu. We now allow amendments to revenue leases. We'll provide an amendment name. We will keep it as is, Demo 1, 2. For a subtype of amendment, the following is provided for revenue leases. Edit non-financial data, no scope change, scope decrease, and scope increase. We'll select no scope change. For this option, we can change the related asset information that doesn't change the scope of the lease. We'll enter an amendment commencement date of 05/01/22. Now we'll click Save and Continue. The entire lease is displayed, and you can start to modify the lease information. I'll select the Payments tab to start my no scope changes. First, I'll change the customer. I'll select Asset 1 to change the customer from Amazon.com to Advanced Access. Here, I'll select Advanced Access and click OK. You'll see that both the Bill To and Ship To sites are blanked out. I need to select the appropriate sites for Advanced Access. I'll then select the Anaheim location. I'll do the same thing for the ship to site. Again, I'll select the Anaheim location. Next, I'll select the payment term. In this case, I'm going to select immediate. And click OK. Here, the payment update allows users to make updates to existing payments. In this case, it was the customer change where I had changed the customer and updated the bill to, ship to sites as well as the payment term. I'll click Save to save my changes. You can now see that the payment status reflects amendment in progress for Asset 1. Next, I'll change the payment amount for Asset 2. I'll scroll down to the page where I can see the payment line. In the actions, I will select Split. The split functionality will split the line into before and after the amendment commencement date. For the portion of the line after the amendment commencement date, I can update the payment amount. In this case, I will change it from $12,000 to $14,000. I'll now save my changes. You can now see that the second payment line for payment status is amendment in progress. Let's process the amendment by first validating it. Under Actions, I'll click Validate. We get a confirmation that the lease has been validated. I'll click OK. The next step is to generate the new schedules of our changes. So under Actions, I will then select Generate Schedules. We get a confirmation the payment schedules have been generated. I'll then click OK. We can review the amended schedules before activating the lease. So let's review some of these schedules. Under the Schedules tab, we will pick the Modification Summary. You can see both payment lines have the amendment commencement date of 5/1/22. The type of amendment is a revision. I had selected the no scope change, and it tells you the amortization end date, if there's any changes between what was there previously, and if there's any changes that we made. In this case, they're both the same. And the remaining payments, for the first asset, we just changed the customer. So there's no change in the payments. But obviously for the second asset, you see the change in the payment from $24,000 to $28,000. You see a change in payments for the second asset is then the $4,000, which is basically for the 2 periods of $2,000 each. It shows the accrued asset balance for both assets. And if we can also see the customer that was changed from Amazon to Advance Access. Now let's review the amortization details. We'll now view Asset 1. Here you can see that the first 4 payments was for the prior customer of Amazon, and those after the ACD date, which is 5/1/22, is now belongs to Advanced Access. Now let's take a look at Asset 2. Here, the original payment before the ACD date is $12,000, and then you see the remaining 2 for $14,000. Now let's view the payment schedules. Let's filter by asset 1 so it's easier to view. You see that for the first 4 periods up to 4/1/22, there's approved payments for $2,000 each, and the remaining after the ACD date of 5/1/2022, it is in draft and reflecting the change of the customer to Advanced Access. So there is a change to the schedule impact and the payment reversals from Amazon to Advanced Access as of the ACD date, but there is no payment adjustments. This will be re-invoiced for the updates to the new customer and reversed from the prior customer. Now we'll take a look at Asset 2. Here you see 1 approved payments, and then the remaining are in draft status. So there is a schedule's impact and the payment adjustments as of the ACA date because the payment was already approved up to that point. So everything looks good. Let's now finalize the lease by activating it. You get a confirmation that the lease has been amended. So the lease has moved to finalize for version status, and you can see that is now the lease status is now active. We'll now attach the lease details report to save the LDR. You then get an information that request was submitted for it. And finally, we'll click done as we're done with this amendment. For our second amendment, we'll cover the scope decrease. But first, let's approve all the payments until 12/31/25. We'll select this document icon. Under Revenue Lease Payments, we'll process the revenue lease payments. We'll leave the action type as lease payments processing. We'll select Vision Operations. For the business unit, we'll select the lease number. In this case, it's Demo 1. For the 2 payment due date, we'll enter 12/31/25, and then we'll approve the payments for processing, and we'll submit our request. We then get a confirmation that our request has been submitted. Now I'll start the second amendment for scope decrease by selecting Amend Lease under the Actions menu. We'll leave the amendment name as is, Demo 1 3. We'll select from the subtype of amendment a scope decrease. For this option, we can reduce the life of the lease or asset and make changes to payments. Oracle Lease Accounting will calculate the gain loss for scope decrease amendments and generate the necessary accounting. We'll enter the amendment date of 01/01/23 and select Save and Continue. Again, the entire lease is displayed, and you can start to modify the lease information. In the Overview tab here, I'll end my date, lease end date early by year. So I'll now change it from 12/31/25 to 24. Here you can see it's 4 years. Now it's down to 3. Now we'll go to the Asset tab. We'll then reduce the end date for Asset 2. Here you can see it's till 12/31/25. Asset end date, we'll shorten it by year. In this case, we'll shorten it to 24. You can now see that the asset has changed and it has, I click Save, Amendment in Progress. Now you can see it for asset number 2, or I'm sorry, asset number 1, it automatically went into expiry process as the ACD date was in Jan 1st, 23. We'll now take a look at the payments by selecting the Payments tab. Here you can see for Asset 1 that the payment status is Closure in Progress. And then for Asset 2, since the end date is in 12/31/24, we do not need to make any changes. So let's save that. Now that I've completed my amendments, let's validate this lease. The lease has been validated. Here in the validations results page, you can see that the lease amortization end date has changed from initially 12/31/2025 to 12/31/24. So it got shortened by a year. Now we'll generate schedules based on our latest change. You then get a confirmation again that the payment schedules have been generated. So let's review the schedules by selecting the modification summary. So here in the modification summary, you can see both assets. For asset number 1, you can see the type of amendment is termination. Here we did a scope decrease. In this case, and asset number 2 is a revision. The only thing that's changed here is the amortization end date for asset number 2 was previously 12/31/25 and is now 12/31/24. Now let's take a look at the amortization details. Here you see under the revenue amortization column, the lease revenue is adjusted for the up till the date of 12/31/24. Now we'll take a look at asset number 2. I'm sorry, asset number 1. There's There's no change to asset number one, except for the extra transaction of a zero, but this does not impact any transaction. So let's finalize this lease and activate it. Here you'll get a confirmation that the lease has been amended, and you can see that the status is now active. So this completes the demo. Thank you for attending.